I see Assemblymember Lowe in the crowd. Sir, you have two items with us today, file items number 8 and 9. Any preference as to which one you take first? Your call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Perhaps we can just go in file item order.
File item 8, Assembly Bill 2098. Proceed when ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and colleagues. Very proud to introduce Assembly Bill 2098, which helps to ensure that we tackle the issue of misinformation and disinformation of COVID-19 to the public as unprofessional conduct when the dissemination causes gross negligence and harms a patient. Today, with me to testify in support is Dr. Nick Sawyer and Dennis Cuevas Romero with the California Medical Association. I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, please proceed. Note 3 minutes total.
You got it. I'd like to thank everybody for having me here today. My name is Nick Sawyer. I'm an emergency physician here in Sacramento, California. Been on the front lines of the COVID pandemic for the past almost 3 years and taking care of patients. I'm also a health policy expert and executive director of No License for Disinformation. We started this group in response to the disinformation that's being spread by licensed physicians, which actually leads to the legitimization of disinformation, which we're seeing across the country is now being institutionalized. Assembly Bill 2098. The purpose of this bill is that the California Medical Board has requested legislative authority for an unprecedented problem that they have not seen before, which is how do you address a problem of physicians not standing up to their professional standards? This is a matter of they want the legislative authority in order to discipline doctors who are stating that they are practicing free speech when really they are telling falsehoods that are misleading people to the point where they have to come and see me in my emergency department. This is not something I ever wanted to do. I didn't intend to come and start a 501c3 while being a practicing emergency physician. But I've seen people die in my emergency department because they were misled by disinformation about COVID-19. It's really important to understand what you hear from the opposition, and there's a lot of confusion about, is that this bill is not supposed to cause problems with physicians' free speech around academic discussion. This bill will allow the medical board to discipline doctors who say things like the vaccines cause AIDS, or that the vaccines are killing more patients than COVID using manipulated data, or that the vaccines are implanting microchips so the government can track you. I'm all for academic debate. In fact, we wouldn't be where we are today without robust academic debate. But that's not what this is about. The last thing I want to say is California leads, and we need to continue to lead. In 31 states, there are bills that are limiting the medical board's ability to discipline doctors who spread COVID-19 vaccine disinformation or misinformation. It's already laws in Tennessee and South Dakota. There are no states that have a bill like this in their House legislature. So as California is the leader, we can be the leader and the first to say that we will protect our patients and the professional practice of medicine by passing this law and defending patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. Dennis Cuevas Romero with the California Medical Association, proud sponsors of the bill. AB 2098, at its simplest form, is intended to protect patients and ensure the integrity of the medical profession. It simply tries to provide the medical board clearer authority that they can discipline physicians for disseminated COVID misinformation, disinformation. We ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's turn to other support witnesses in the hearing room. Name, affiliation, position on the bill only, please.
Ryan Spencer on behalf of the American College of OBGYNs, District 9, in support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Rebecca Marcus, representing the Consumer Protection Policy Center at USD's School of Law, and support.
Thank you. Any other support witnesses in the hearing room? Seeing none, let's move to the teleconference service. Moderator, if you would please prompt any individuals waiting to testify in support of Assembly Bill 2098. We will continue with them.
Thank you. If you're in support of AB 2098, you may press 1 and then 0. Again, that is 1 and then 0 if you're in support of AB 2098. We will go to line 163. Your line is open.
Kelly Brooks on behalf of the County Health Executives Association of California in support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. We will go to line 230. Your line is open.
Thank you, Chair and members. Tim Madden, representing the California chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians in the California Rheumatology Alliance in support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Next, we'll go line of 229. Your line is open.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Tim McMullen. I am a fourth-year student in the MD-PhD program at UC Irvine. Speaking on behalf of myself, I'm in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Line 68. Your line is open.
Aaron Bone with the Medical Board of California. The board appreciates the most recent amendment to the bill and has the support of the amended position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 247, your line is open.
Lydia Bourne, representing the American Academy of Pediatrics, California Division, we're in support.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 59, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Andrew Wylam, and I'm the president of Pandemic Patients, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that works to relieve the harm caused by COVID-19 and post-COVID conditions. I request that you vote in favor of AB 2098.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. And we have no further support in queue at this time.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Now let's follow the same process and hear from any opposition witnesses. First, opposition witnesses in the hearing room. We'll give, well, we're going to do 3 minutes, so let's figure out how we divide it up. Please proceed. Identify yourself and then move forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Powell. Californians for Good Governance opposes AB 2098 because it can't achieve its stated goals without violating the Constitution. The First Amendment does not allow broad, content-based restrictions on speech, even if that speech is false, even if the intent of the law is compelling. Among the constitutional problems with this bill would be the chilling effect it would have on speech. It would cause conscientious doctors to censor themselves. The remedy for speech that is false is speech that is true. This is not an abstract ideal we aspire to. This is the only way you sort fact from fiction in a free society. We don't need this bill because there's no misinformation crisis. There's a crisis of institutional credibility. The public has lost faith in the medical establishment, and censorship will not rebuild that trust. In fact, it's the surest way to further erode that trust. Thank you, and I'd like to give the rest of the time to Dr. Cariotti.
Please proceed.
I'm Dr. Aaron Cariotti. I'm a licensed physician in California, serve as the Chief of Ethics for the Unity Project. I did my medical training at Georgetown, residency training at UC Irvine, where I was professor in the School of Medicine for 15 years. I directed the medical ethics program at UC Irvine. I directed for several years the medical ethics committee at the California Department of State Hospitals. I also served on the Orange County Vaccine Task Force and was deeply involved in COVID policies at the state and local level. AB 2098 will harm patients. It'll stall scientific progress, hamstring our pandemic response, undermine the trust necessary for the doctor-patient relationship, and worsen the physician shortage in California. A physician with a gag order is not a physician you can trust. Patients want to know that if they ask their doctor a question, including a question about COVID, they'll get an honest opinion from the physician, regardless of whether they go seek a second opinion or follow their doctor's advice. The text of AB 2098 makes 3 statements about COVID that are already outdated because science constantly evolves, as CDC Director Rochelle Walensky recently explained. Last week, for example, a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed negative vaccine efficacy against the new Omicron variant. Another peer-reviewed study published 2 weeks ago found reduced sperm counts in men after vaccination. Neither of these efficacy or safety findings was available when this bill was drafted only very recently. Advances in science and medicine occur when doctors and scientists challenge conventional thinking or settled opinion. Good science is always characterized by conjecture and refutation, by deliberation, fierce debate, and always openness to new data. So trying to fixate any consensus as unassailable is going to stifle medical and scientific progress. Frontline physicians challenging conventional thinking played a key role during the pandemic in advancing knowledge of COVID treatment. For example, ventilating patients.
You were at the 3-minute point. I'm going to let you wind your way to the end and not terminate this abruptly.
Okay, I'm happy to give several examples of what I just mentioned, but
don't take advantage of my patience.
If this bill becomes law, doctors will be punished for practicing medicine according to their best judgment. Informed consent, which is the foundation of medical ethics, will be compromised. Forward-thinking physicians will simply leave the state rather than practice under these conditions. And most concerningly, all that will result in harm to our patients. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thanks for your cooperation. Any other opposition witnesses in the hearing room? Name, affiliation, and position on the bill only.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Shira Miller. I'm the founder and president of Physicians for Informed Consent, a volunteer position since 2015, and I'm here representing all of our members. We oppose AB 2098.
Thank you, Doctor. Next, please.
My name is Dr. Theresa Cohn. I'm a practicing psychiatrist, and I would remind you that there is a national shortage of psychiatrists in the midst of a mental health catastrophe. And if this bill passes, I will either leave the state,
name, affiliation, and position on the bill,
or
please.
I will stop practicing medicine in California. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Chair members. My name is Shuna Lach, Placer County, mother of 3. I'm a member of PERC organization. I'm also speaking on behalf of laboratory professionals all over California. And we are in strong opposition to this bill, and we are asking for a no vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Kasia Williams. I'm speaking on behalf of 2 organizations. The first one is Protection of the Education Rights of Kids, which represents over 20,000 families in California, asking for a no or abstain on AB 2098. The second organization is Moms for Liberty Placer County Chapter, which represents over 2,000 parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens, also asking for a no or abstain on AB 2098. And personally, as a patient, I'm asking for a no or abstain on AB 2098. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
My name is Deborah Rittenhouse. I'm here as a citizen myself, and I am totally against this, even as a patient. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
My name is Denise Aguilar, co-founder of Freedom Angels, president of San Joaquin County Liberty Coalition, and representative of Lexit in opposition.
Thank you. Next, please.
Tara Thornton, co-founder of Freedom Angels, in strong opposition.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Helga Shelifo, mother of 3, in opposition to AB 2098.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
My name's Alyssa Sonora. I'm a mother and founder of Los Angeles Educators and Parents United, and we strongly, strongly oppose this bill. Senator Lowe, health is not universal.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline McCarroll. I'm a registered nurse in San Diego, California, certified pediatric nurse. I strongly oppose this bill, and I ask for a no or abstain vote. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
My name is Melissa Grace. I'm the founder of an organization called San Diego Rise Up. I speak on behalf of 15,000 constituents in San Diego County and ask you respectfully no vote on AB 2098.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Laura Sextra. I'm the CEO of the Unity Project, and we represent over 170 strategic partners, which are grassroots organizations from Shasta County all the way down through San Diego County. I'm expressing an extreme opposition to this bill. We believe that this will be the first step in the total destruction of the doctor-patient relationship and healthcare in this state and potentially the rest of the country.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Julius Giles. I'm a media live streamer on YouTube with Today with Julius. Strong opposition of AB 2098. Although I'm not a doctor, I've done enough research to know that the real misinformation is telling folks that vaccines are safe and effective. So strong no.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
My name is Lynn. I'm with the Unity Project, and we strongly oppose.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Rhonda Ponce, private voting citizen, and as a frontline healthcare worker, I object to this. I guess a few friends are also international physicians who have come here to be able to debate medically in a free country. So even though they had to work today, hopefully this gets out for them too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other opposition witnesses in the hearing room? Seeing none, let's move to the teleconference service. Moderator, if you would please prompt any individuals waiting on the teleconference line, waiting to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 2098. We will continue with them.
Thank you. If you're in opposition of AB 2098, you may press 1 and then 0. Again, that is 1 and then 0 for opposition of AB 2098. We have about 30 in queue. We will go to line 96. Your line is open.
Hi, my name is Catherine McBride, Placer County Freedom Coalition. AB 2098 is a witch hunt and a gag on truth-telling and whistleblowing physicians.
Ma'am.
I'm in strong opposition, and I respectfully asking for your no vote. Thank you.
Moderator, just a word to those who are waiting on the teleconference line. It's name, affiliation, and position on the bill, and you can make that clear, but no more. Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 218, your line is open.
Yes, my name is Alan C. I'm a constituent in Senator John Laird's district. Support COVID pre-therapies, but strongly oppose AB 2098. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Line 165, your line is open.
Yes, hello. My name is Karen Delcampara. Speaking on behalf of Bay Area Freedom Alliance, strongly opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 203, your line is open.
This is Christy Sepulveda-Burchett with Educate Advocate. We serve families who have exceptional needs children, and we're opposed.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 250, your line is open.
Hi, this is Gabrielle Ingram, founder of Stand Up Sacramento County in Senator Pan's district. We ask that you vote no. We're strongly opposed.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 242, your line is open.
Hi, Christina Hildebrand on behalf of Voice for Choice Advocacy in strong opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 197, your line is open.
Hi, I'm calling to represent the millions of people who have already fled California due to medical fascism. That's what this is. It's medical fascism.
Just a reminder.
Next of the line of 2.
Just a reminder, moderator. Name, affiliation, and position on the bill. Next, please.
Line 252, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Joni Great. I am a registered nurse, and I am with Take a Stand Stanislaus in strong opposition of this bill and asking for your no vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 217, your line is open.
You love to cut the phone lines, but you will never silence the people. We're not taking your shot. We're saying no.
I'll take that as an opposition. Next, please.
Line 216, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Heather Keller. I'm a member of PERC, A Voice for Choice, the Unity Project, California Freedom Keepers, and many others. And I'm asking for a no on 2098. It is government overreach at a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 263, your line is open.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Please proceed.
Hello?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, hello. My name is Sandra Marquez, and I'm a Placer County resident, mother of two, and also affiliated with the Placer County Freedom Coalition. I strongly oppose this bill and humbly ask you to oppose it as well. It is government overreach. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 264, your line's open.
Hello, my name is Heather Jimenez. I'm a parent and an early childhood educator. We know that the science changes, so please oppose this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 186, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Desiree Heredia from Fresno County, and I'm a volunteer with California Freedom Keepers in opposition.
Thank you. Next, please.
191, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Monique Holguin, and I'm calling with Whittier Parents for Choice in Senator Archuletta's district, and we strongly oppose this bill.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 214, your line is open.
Hello. Can you hear me?
You're on perfectly. Please
Hear me?
proceed.
Oh, excellent. All right. Excellent. My name is Michael Joseph. I'm with Who Owns Your Body? Does it Who Own Your Body? If the Who Own Your Body, then that makes you a slave organization. And down go Evan Lowe. He's down there just like a hoe, sucking on that big pharma dough.
Next, please.
Line 167, your line is open. Line 167.
Hi, my name is McKenna Harrop St. John on behalf of the California Health Coalition Advocacy in opposition.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 238, your line is open.
Sally Maslin, Los Angeles County, very much in opposition and sickened by the government overreach of this.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
248, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Courtney Peters with Take a Stand Stanislaus. We strongly oppose this bill and ask for your no vote.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 249, your line is open.
Yes, my name is Nicole Young, a chapter chair of Placer County Moms for Liberty in strong opposition. I represent over 2,000 families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 81, your line is open.
My name is Sarah Rose. I'm in Placer County. I am strongly opposed to AB 2098. Any type of censorship goes against our Constitution of the United States of America. Government does not think for us. It is our
Thank you, ma'am.
duty
I'll take
to
that
let
as,
all...
I'll take that as opposition. Next, please.
Line 151, your line is open.
Buenas tardes, estimados legisladores. Mi nombre es Antonio Hernández. Soy residente. ¿Puedo hablar español o no?
No.
¿Se permite hablar en español? ¿Ah?
You can speak in Spanish. We don't have an interpreter.
Está bien. Es que me siento más cómodo hablando en español, aunque sea que se grabe mi voz ahí. Nomás quiero pedir que por favor...
Ahorita estamos tomando testimonio con el nombre y la organización que usted representa y si está en...
Mi nombre es Antonio Hernández. Soy residente de la ciudad de Bond Park, de la señora Rubio, Susan Rubio, y yo me pongo esta ley porque va a violar mucha de los relación contra los doctores y los pacientes. Por favor, les pido por favor no a esta ley. Gracias.
He was just pleading that you oppose the bill.
Opposition. Gracias. Next, please.
Line 261, your line is open.
Hello, this is Dina Martin from ABC Unified Parents for Choice. We strongly oppose AB 2098. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 95, your line is open.
Yes, my name is Natalie Garcia, first-time expecting mother representing thousands, an advocate of Montessori learning and advocate of informed consent, and I strongly oppose this bill along with my unborn child.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 260, your line is open.
Hi, my name's Erin Hipsman. I'm a constituent in Senator Archuletta's district, and I'm in strong opposition of AB 2098. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Line 262, your line is open.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed.
My name is Karen Vogue. I'm a constituent of Senator Brian Jones, and I oppose this bill because it will stop innovations and treatments from being heard and also safety signals from being heard if doctors are prevented from speaking their professional opinion. I ask you all to please vote no and let doctors be doctors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Line 259, your line is open.
Hello, my name is Corinne Whitlow, co-founder of Take a Stand Business, and we strongly oppose this bill.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 254, your line is open.
My name is Robin Pohl. I'm a lifelong resident of California, and I'm calling in opposition of 2098.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
266, your line is open.
This is Sandy Lynch. I'm a mother of 3, grandmother of 6, and I totally oppose 2098. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 268, your line is open.
Hi there, this is Dr. Kathy Allard, and I strongly oppose this bill. I'm from Sonoma County. We Americans need our doctors and scientists to engage in scientific inquiry, debate, and educate our patients. Good science does not happen by the edict of governmental bureaucrats. It happens by diligent and honest inquiry and discovery. We hope
you'll... Doctor. Next, we'll take that as an opposition. Next, please.
Line 270, your line is open.
Hello, is that me?
Yes, it is. I take it you're opposed.
If you need to stay till midnight and listen to the people still matter. And the people pay your salary.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we're not going to stand for this medical
We've
fascism.
recorded your
We've had
opposition.
enough of it.
Next, please.
Line 197, your line is open.
Like I said, you can cut the phones, but you will never silence.
We will be here until midnight if we need to be. Next, please.
Line 276, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Lisa Altman. I'm an Orange County resident and attorney here in the state of California. I strongly oppose this bill. We need to let the doctors be doctors and debate an intelligent discussion about what's best for their patients. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Line 272, your line is open. Your line is open.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Garrido. I am a constituent of Bob Archuletta's in Lakeland, California, and I strongly oppose this bill.
Thank you. Next, please.
273, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Krista Dancy. I am a licensed mental health provider and a group practice owner, and I strongly oppose AB 2098.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
271, your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Noemi Abrego. I'm here from San Diego in the Chula Vista City. I am with CV Parents United, and I'm also with Lexi, with hundreds of your constituents here opposing this AB 2098. Thank you.
Thanks for calling in. Next, please.
Line 277, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Daisy, and I'm a Kern County resident. I'm speaking on behalf of me, my child, my family,
And I want to say that I strongly oppose AB 2098 and that natural law always wins.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 269, your line is open. (269), your line is open.
Hi, this is Norma, and I oppose.
Thank you, Norma. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 282, your line is open.
Hello, this is Kathy Whiteman. I'm from Windsor, California, in Mike McGuire's district, and I strongly oppose silencing our doctors and hope that you will all vote no.
Thank you. Next, please.
Line 286, your line is open.
Hi, my name is Yadira De Leon. I am an ambassador of Lexit, representing thousands of Latinos in our nation, and a member of NOW, a parent advocacy group, and I strongly oppose AB 2098.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 289, your line is open.
Hello.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mulaney Loftu. I'm from the Central Valley, and I strongly oppose AB 2098. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Line 292, your line is open.
Penny Harrington from Senator Bates' district, strongly opposed.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 295, your line is open. Line 295, your line is open.
Hi, this is Jenny Rao from Long Beach Parents United, and we are strongly opposed to this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you. Line 297, your line is open.
Hi, I'm calling from Sonoma, California as residents and citizens for, well, we're called Save Our Sonoma. And we're calling on bills like these to urge a no vote or an abstain, please, so that we can continue to choose to listen to doctors that look out for us as individuals, not that are told what they can and cannot say. We appreciate that.
Next, please.
Line 280, your line is open.
Yes, my name is Matt Leonard. I'm a father of 5 representing the agricultural community in California. Strongly oppose AB 2080, or excuse me, 2098. I hope that common sense wins the day and doctors can be doctors once again. I can't believe this has to be said, but common sense should win the day.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, we have no further opposition in queue.
Okay. Let's now bring the conversation back to my colleagues on the dais for questions, comments, and concerns. I know my colleague just stepped out and she has some comments. Assembly member, maybe I could just kick it off and ask about the Medical Board of California, and I thought I heard support if amended. There were some concerns expressed in the analysis about having to prove violations and the intent of the licensee. Have those issues been resolved?
I understand that we're still working with the medical board to help address any of the outstanding concerns. But as it's the bill is before you currently, those issues are still outstanding.
Do you? I mean, given the fact that this is heading to appropriations next, how close are you to resolving those issues? I mean, it occurs to me that that could be a significant problem in terms of proof. Having to prove one's intent can be somewhat problematic, regardless of the setting, including this one. I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
Sure. Yes. I mean, as specifically stated, the board specifically hopes to address to get that of the records. But I understand, just as legislative history, that the bill did not pass in this House, in the Senate. But certainly have good faith negotiations in trying to iron out any outstanding issues.
Well, I believe my colleague Senator Melendez has some questions, so let's let the Vice Chair take it.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there were a lot of concerns raised here today, and there are clearly a lot of people who support and also a lot of people who are in opposition to this. It is always disappointing, though, when legislators dismiss the opinions of those who are in opposition. I'm not suggesting that you have done that. I'm suggesting that we have had some members who don't seem to take seriously those who are in opposition, and that is always disappointing. Everyone is entitled to their point of view. My questions for you are relating to the definition of misinformation. I know that the medical board had some concerns about that, and I see you've made some changes to the bill and you've tried to narrow that, but I don't know that it even defines misinformation yet. I think it clarifies that it's grossly negligent, but what exactly is it? Can you give me an example?
Sure, and if I might just the chair answer specifically with respect to the committee analysis as well, and then perhaps Dr. Sawyer might be able to express additional observations through the chair, if that's acceptable to you, Senator. But as outlined on page 2, specifically the definition of disinformation means the misinformation that a licensee deliberately disseminated with malicious intent, specifically, or an intent to mislead. And then secondly, Senator, dissemination means the conveyance of information from a licensee to a patient under the licensee's care. So my understanding with respect to addressing and narrowing it in the scope is outlined clearly and as solidly defined.
So how do you then prove that somebody did so with malicious intent? How would one do that? Because I'm looking at the medical board, which is comprised of half of them are doctors and half of them are attorneys. And attorneys are no more qualified than I am to, decide what is medically accurate and what is not. So how do you decide the intent?
Sure. Maybe Dr. Sawyer, you can help address that specific issue as you've been working with the board specifically.
Yep, happy to. So the first I want to say malicious intent is reckless disregard for the truth or intentionally misleading others.
Okay, so let me ask you this before you continue.
Sure.
So over the course of time in this pandemic, things have changed, right? We know things now we certainly didn't know in the beginning. New treatments have come out. So I'm envisioning a situation where we have we have treatments today, but then 2 months from now, there's something that we've discovered, this actually works. This is actually a proven method to help ease symptoms, but as a physician, you've already been reprimanded and punished perhaps because you gave your patients information that by yesterday's standards were deemed to be malicious and just, not good medical science.
Yes, Senator. So I would hope that would never happen either.
Okay. Well, hope's not a strategy.
Okay, so
when we're talking about people's careers.
So that is the. So let me be more clear. The problem that we're dealing with right now is patients who are being told that the vaccines have nanoparticles in them that are intended to track, trace, and control their mind, that it causes AIDS, that it is killing more people than COVID. And so that is the information that I would expect the medical board to hear and take seriously, specifically given the fact that they have up to 8 members that are physicians on the board who can tell the difference between academic debate and things that are just patently and verifiably false. That's the danger here. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because people believe it. After one of the doctors said that the vaccines magnetize people, I was working in the children's emergency department and a mom asked me, do vaccines really magnetize people? And I have over and over again is just, I don't blame the patients because they're misinformed. And I just try and reassure them and tell them as much as I know to help them get to the point where they're willing to get vaccinated.
Okay, and I appreciate that. However, I still go back to the fact that we have a board that is half attorneys, no offense, Mr. Chairman, and half physicians, whose idea of what is malicious might be different than what yours might be, and somebody's career is on the line here. Certain instances where it seems pretty obvious, but in other instances it may not be that obvious, and I have great concern about that. And
may I pose a question?
Sure.
There was a patient in South Carolina who called the medical board and told them that his doctor told him not to get a booster because it would kill him. And he filed a complaint with the medical board. We know that that's not true. And the medical board just kind of brushed it aside, and he ended up calling the reporter. This guy had no idea what to do. And he said, I think that if this is true, if the vaccines are killing people, then the medical boards need to take a stance.
Okay, but in your specific example, if you're saying that this happened and the medical board did nothing,
yes,
this bill isn't going to change that. The medical board will still do nothing.
So the medical board has asked for legislative authority because they don't feel that they have it to discipline doctors who are spreading misinformation and disinformation.
You lost me when you said the medical board wants legislative authority. I have the legislative authority.
Right, they're asking
members of
you.
this committee have the legislative authority.
Okay, I apologize.
The medical board does not, and I will under no circumstance cede our authority to the medical board.
That is not what I intended to say, and
Senator
I apologize.
Pan, I can't hear him when you're speaking off to the side.
That's not what I intended. They're asking you to amend the Medical Practice Act. That's not what I intended.
All right, that's fine. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you trying to help me understand this here. So, Assemblyman, again, I think the definition isn't quite clear, and I still hold my reservations about who is the ultimate arbiter of what is malicious and what is not. That's where we seem to have a problem. Now, the medical board can already impose disciplinary action, correct?
Correct.
Absent this bill, right? Okay. So then your bill is seeking to allow the medical board to impose even stricter penalties. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's to clarify, Senator, and as I'm trying to best understand the specifics of helping to further define, if you have some suggestions to which you would be in support, very much happy to entertain such accommodations, as I know you're equally committed to the protection of all Californians.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but let's go back to what your bill is intending to do, because the medical board can already discipline physicians, right? So your bill looks to impose even harsher penalties?
It's to help clarify, Senator, as clearly defined on the misinformation that is being exacerbated in this climate. And so if the questioning with respect to helping to understand the legislative authority versus the authority that has been vested in the medical board by us in the legislature and the governor, happy to entertain some specific language that you might propose here in this committee to getting your support to help protect all of Californians.
Okay, well, Assembly Member, I don't know that you have provided any more clarity for me, but I do thank you for trying. I still have the same concerns. This bill goes to the Appropriations Committee next, so there's certainly not a lot of opportunity to make any changes. I don't anticipate any will be made in this committee, but I will say that physicians have a great responsibility to their patients. I think we all recognize that, and we certainly don't want physicians or medical personnel out there saying things to people that could do them harm. Although I suspect that that's already taking place today, having nothing to do with COVID, right? Because physicians get disciplined all the time, don't they? Sure they do. So the board already has the opportunity to discipline physicians who are operating outside of their boundaries now. This one concerns me because it seems to be this COVID cudgel that is attempting to be used to intimidate physicians from sharing information that may very well be valuable to their patients. And again, I go back to, there were some things we didn't know in the beginning. There were certainly treatments that didn't exist in the beginning that now are in existence and are widely used, but perhaps prior to their introduction, people might think, well, that's crazy, that could never work, or had their hesitations about its efficacy. So that's my concern. I appreciate your desire to protect the patients. I really do. But I will not be able to support the bill in its current form today. But thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the indulgence.
Thank you. Senator Pan.
Thank you very much. And Senator Lowe, appreciate you bringing this forward. A few questions. So first of all, there's some questions about disinformation and COVID and so forth. And maybe you can help me here. So from my understand, this is simply not something that you or I or individuals said this is a problem. We've had the World Health Organization declared that we had in addition to a pandemic, we had a infodemic. The U.S. Surgeon General put out a whole report on misinformation, disinformation as a public health crisis. The Federation of State Medical Boards, the sort of umbrella organization that brings together all the medical boards across the United States, has said physicians had a particular duty to patients and that should be held responsible if they spread misinformation. So can you perhaps speak to the nature of this crisis, that this is not something that you yourself came up with, or maybe just a handful of us, but this was actually there was a national call, an international call, but also a national call to action to address this. Can you speak to the rationale for bringing this bill forward?
Yeah, Dr. Pan, thank you. Specifically, a number of members of the legislature, we are attempting to be as responsive as possible for the protection of all of Californians, as outlined here. And just to be that much more direct and frank, I'm actually surprised that there is opposition to what we know that this is a very straightforward piece of legislation to help empower the medical board to do its job. It's not oftentimes also, Dr. Pan, that you would see the California Medical Association in support of a legislative proposal that could further empower the board to reprimand its own members, but in doing so, helping to ensure the integrity and the standards of care and protecting all of Californians.
No, thank you, and I appreciate that. And actually, not only the California Medical Association, but Medical Association of Medical Association testified in support of this bill. So in other words, the doctors of California are saying the medical board needs to have this authority because we have a problem where, unfortunately, a small minority, but unfortunately, that minority is endangering the patients of California, and calling on the medical board and calling on us as legislators to give the medical board that authority. I also make note that there's in some of the previous discussion about the medical board, just to make note that it is the mission of the Medical Board of California to protect health consumers through proper licensing and regulation of physicians and surgeons. And certainly as a licensee myself, I know that a license is a privilege. It's right. It's something that the state grants that allows me to do certain things as a medical practitioner that ordinary people off the street would not be allowed to do, and that I'm expected to wield that license responsibly, and that includes conveying accurate information and the standard of care to patients. In fact, I believe, and I certainly appreciate the chair raising the issue with, but I mean, I think there is about, we need to be sure that physicians are practicing the standard of care. And in fact, when we talk about the medical board actually sanctioning physicians, whether it's with probation or loss of license, well, ultimately, yes, the medical board itself votes, and we can talk about how many physicians and so forth on the medical board. In fact, some of the consumer advocates think there's too many physicians on the medical board. That actually there is an investigative process that involves actually getting an expert to review the documents to be sure to say is the physician practicing the standard of care, or are they potentially causing harm by through negligence or unfortunately, if you say disinformation, even intentionally writing, causing harm. Is that your understanding? I know you used to be chair of the Business Professions Committee in the Assembly, so you have some expertise in this area. That's not just simply a vote of the medical board. There's actually an investigatory process that takes place before sanctioning a physician.
Yes, that's correct. In every investigation, there's a medical expert that reviews the action specifically to best determine what has transpired. So there is a due process to collect as much information to assess the violation.
Correct. Thank you. And I think just to again acknowledge what you pointed out, and certainly I, as a member of some medical associations, we usually are on the end fighting to not so much limit the medical board's authority, but being sure that we're treated fairly. So the fact that so many medical associations, in fact, I haven't heard a significant medical association actually in opposition to this bill. Right? There may be some groups of doctors, but it's not. The medical associations are here before us, advocating for the medical community, advocating for patients on not only this issue but so many other issues. Are here to say that they want to support this bill. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So, I think so. Again, I think one of the challenges for the medical board, of course, is that being sure that they can carry out its mission. That mission's defined by the parameters we give it as in the code. Correct. And I think it's important because we've had too many people die of COVID. We also, and unfortunately, and it was mentioned that, well, maybe there's a treatment that come up, but I haven't, I don't see any physician being punished for bringing up a treatment where there's actually there's actually good scientific evidence to show that it's either works or even potentially could work. I think the issue is that there are actually some, I don't want to call them treatments anymore, but things that people are still selling and actually personally profiting from that actually we know the evidence has actually come in that doesn't work or could be potentially harmful as well. So, these are the extreme circumstances in which the medical board, in order to fulfill its mission to protect the public, that's why we have licensing, needs to have the authority to be able to examine whether someone who's been entrusted with a license should still retain that license and that position of trust with the state of California. And I appreciate that, my colleagues in the medical community certainly understand that, and that's why I see them here testifying and expressing their support for this bill. So certainly I'll be supporting your bill today, and I'll be moving the bill at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Senator Achobog.
Hello, Assemblyman Merlot. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for bringing this measure forward. Let me just begin by stating that I truly appreciate the intent of the bill of protecting patients and Californians as a whole. So let me just begin with that, because I do truly respect that intent. However, I do have reservations, and I'll explain why, especially when it comes to the realm of science and dealing with a new virus in this case, per se. And in the sense of, especially when it comes to science, I remember in 2019 and actually 20, started in 20, in 2020 and 21, there would be certain things that we knew that were stated. This is what we know. These are the facts. And, we would hear it in the news, statements made by doctors and reporters repeating it. And then a couple of months later, or even a year later, we'd hear something completely different when it came to what we knew or facts at that time. There's a sense in science that we understand that it's always evolving, and something that we have to consider, especially when you're dealing with something brand spanking new. There's going to be ongoing research, ongoing discussions and commentaries that are going to prove true today, but may or may not prove so in the future. And I understand the intent of trying to protect patients or Californians from people making statements that may not be truth. But I think the concerns that I have are in principle with regards to, well, what exactly is truth? Well, we know that science is always evolving and research is continuously ongoing, especially with something completely new such as COVID-19. So that in itself makes me a little nervous with regards to providing the space for doctors and scientists to do continuous research in this space and prove something that may be working, maybe in the experimental space of research, trying new medications and new things that are going to take time in order for them to be, approved by the FDA or by the medical boards as something that's true. So in the process or in time of that, there are people who are willing to try new things and are willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to try that even though it's not FDA approved, or I heard that this may be a possibility to address or to cure some COVID-19 symptoms. That ongoing research right now to penalize someone for sort of doing experiments or doing research makes me a little nervous, especially in science. In public safety, we had a bill, and I was trying to find what the bill was, and so I apologize, I don't have it in there. But we had a bill that stated that expert witnesses in science, would be considered, if anything were to question, to consider it as reconsideration for sentencing and I think it was sentencing and something else. I don't remember what it was. I wish I could know, but the bottom line or the underlying theme on that was the fact that science was ongoing and things could change. And so with that in mind, to narrow this bill and to pass a bill such as this and narrow the scope of what can be said and cannot be said makes me a little bit nervous, besides the First Amendment. I think more in the fact that because it is science, and I would hope that any patient or any Californian would have a trusting relationship with their medical doctor, facilitator, and know what their training was in order to assess whether or not something would work for them or take something as truth. And if you do question what your doctor may or may not say with regards to this space, that they always have an option to go and have a second, third, fourth, or even more opinions on that end. So taking into consideration, what the medical board and what the FDA or the public health agency state as facts and compare that with what is being said. So on that notion, I'm hesitant to be able to support this bill at this time, but I do, and just in the sense of knowing that science is ongoing and research should be ongoing, and no doctor, no scientist should feel constricted by, exploring or doing research or making statements. And I'm hoping that consumers and patients will have the knowledge or the intuitive intuitive direction to seek different opinions. So on those reasons, I can't support the bill today, but I appreciate the intent of wanting to protect, our patients and Californians as a whole. Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Assemblymember, if this were a vaccine mandate, I'm generally not supportive of those except in very limited circumstances. But in looking at this bill, it seems to me that in order to have something that's actionable, in order to be able to take action against a doctor, the information that the physician is disseminated using this language has to be contradicted. So it's opposite contemporary scientific consensus. contemporary scientific consensus. In other words, contemporary scientific agreement. Is there agreement with respect to COVID-19 vaccines?
With respect to the medical community?
Yes. Well, the scientific consensus. So
Right.
I guess it would extend beyond necessarily the physician community. It would extend to the pharmaceutical community. It would extend to the public health community. It would extend broadly, right?
Sure. And Mr. Chair, if I might, I am not a doctor. I know that there are doctors on this committee who can speak to it specifically, but in addressing and acknowledging the comments that you've made as well as the previous senator, we're very specific in this bill with respect to this definition of dissemination of information with malicious intent. So the outline that you provided, Senator, does not qualify because it would specifically outline here with malicious intent and intent to mislead specifically. So in this case of the doctor wishing to focus on helping to acknowledge and address specifically to help a patient, that's not listed in the bill specifically. And with respect to misinformation, that of disinformation and dissemination of misinformation would constitute that of gross negligence. So again, attempting to be as specific as possible and addressing that of specific harm. And that is what we are helping to address and empower the medical board to address.
Well, and my point was that I tried to make was it seems to be a pretty high standard. In other words, you have to prove that the information being disseminated is contradicted by contemporary scientific consensus, agreement in the scientific community, right?
Yes, overwhelming consensus.
Okay, any other questions? Well, let's go with Senator Bates first, and then I'll go back around.
Thank you, Assemblymember Lowe, and for our long discussion, very important. I'm having real difficulty with it because I see a patient getting information from their doctor that may be, let's take the example of the individual who reported that their doctor said if you take the vaccine you'll die. We don't know the underlying conditions that might have been there that gave the physician that responsibility to let his patient know. Perhaps he was in cancer treatment a couple of years ago. I happen to have a friend who had that same sort of problem. So it seems to be something where you really need to make a distinction between hearsay, and I consider that from the patient-doctor relationship, a patient sending in a complaint, compared to a doctor who's actually publishing misinformation that is very dangerous and damaging, like you're going to get a chip in your brain. That's quite a different thing than a patient-doctor relationship when in the privacy of that, the doctor says, I don't think you should do this, I don't think you should take this, and all the reasons why. So because of that and considering the depth that we'd have to go into in discussing how the medical board might weigh in on something that's that complicated, I'm going to not be able to support it today. I understand the motivation, the passion on a part of our physicians. I also understand the concern of the opposition because this is a reach into free speech, no question. It is a constitutional cloudy area for me because once you start with COVID, what's the next thing? And we have to always think of the camel's nose under the tent and all that because that's how things like this start when we start to restrict the ability of a professional relationship to be talking to their patient, especially in the world, I believe, and in the arena of health and privacy. We have a nation on fire about that right now. So I'm going to not be able to support it today, but I want you to know I understand and I feel the concern that you have based on, friends I've had who've had what I didn't consider the best information. But we do know that people are getting COVID that are vaccinated and boosted 3 times. So there are areas there that are very, very gray and really need a little more depth of I think, specificity before you can bring something like this to the medical board and affect someone's career. So with that, I won't be able to support it today.
Thank you, Senator Bates. Just a comment, and then I'll go back around the room here. It seems to me that in the direct patient-doctor conversation, if a doctor says, you shouldn't take the vaccine, it may kill you, evaluation of patient condition, other factors. In order for that to be actionable, it's, as I read your bill, against the individual physician, the contemporary medical or scientific community must be in agreement that that comment, that the vaccine will kill you, is false. And so to the extent that you're considering the condition of the patient, and you have to, in order to evaluate that, I suspect that the medical board would have a very, very difficult time finding contemporary agreement among physicians in the scientific community. More general statements that are not related to patients, I think, may be a little more difficult. Senator Pan, still have a comment? Question?
Maybe since the research came up, let me just ask a quick question. There's many research organizations nationally, American Association of Science, in California, the University of California, et cetera. Any of those opposed to this bill are expressing concerns?
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Senator Archuleta.
Assembly member, we're talking about disseminating publicly, shouting out publicly, newspapers, whatever, voicing in such a way, versus the one-on-one patient-doctor relationship where all of us look to our own physicians one-on-one, privately. But I think this is about disseminating publicly information that is misleading or interpreted as misleading. And I think that's the issue that, so are we trying to stymie the doctor from publicly saying something and punishing him or her because he did say something without data? Or is that up to the board to decide you made this statement without enough data? I mean, at what point does it make sense for that individual to be right or to be wrong?
Let's see, 3 bills, 6:30.
Would you elaborate?
Certainly, Senator. I'll mention it again for the third time on page 2 as it relates to the specific nature of the dissemination of information to cause harm to a patient that is intentionally misleading to an individual. So the specific language is very tight in the definition of disinformation, specifically then disseminated with malicious intent or an intent to mislead. And number 2, the dissemination is defined as the conveyance of information from a licensee to a patient in the form of treatment or device, but would constitute gross negligence if contradicted by contemporary scientific consensus. So very narrow in that scope.
Colleagues, anything else?
Just one last-
Senator Chobog, please.
Sorry, I know we all want to finish really quick, but I just want to make sure. So, if I can, you said within the scope of truth, right? Within the with malicious intent. How does that relate to that the board, according to this bill, they'll be acting within the scope of truth, and anyone that goes against that truth will be acting in malicious intent? Where do the doctors experimenting or doing research in other areas that have not been accepted within that scope of truth or accepted truth by that board fit in?
So I'm not quite understood the question.
So you're in your bill, you said you have very specific language that only addresses doctors who disseminate information with malicious intent. That malicious intent, in your definition, is within anything that goes against the scope of truth or what is considered scientific truth, accepted as scientific truth. Where do doctors or researchers, or more, I would say more doctors because it's specific to doctors, that are doing research and research and experiments outside of that accepted scientific truth fall when making statements. I think what I'm trying to say is, would you consider anybody that is not within that scope of truth or scientific truth be considered or labeled as malicious intent?
I'm not quite sure what the question is, but specifically, as we've stated, the licensing holders come with certain obligations that is subscribed to that of the medical board by the legislature. And so if the question is, are there individuals to continue to have free thinking and explore other methods? Certainly, but what we're talking about here is within the scope and what is defined that of the standards of care that comes with that of the license itself.
And the standards of care I have no problem with. It's whether or not they believe that they have other means of treating something or making statements that have not been accepted as scientific truth, but are in the process of doing that research. But within this bill, within the scope of this bill, they would be considered, or actually my question would be, I shouldn't be stating what your intent is, but would they be considered under this malicious intent by disseminating what they're doing in research and expressing what they're doing or what they've seen before it's considered scientific truth by the board?
No, unless there is harm specifically, and as a member of this committee and sitting on a number of sunsets, as you know, the history of healthcare, when we're talking about some of the other medicines and practices, whether it be acupuncture or chiropractic, as we continually evolve in thinking about how we have a full adoption of other medical procedures and practices, that is part of the conversation that we're having here specifically. But again, the gross negligence and the misleading with the intent is where we're very narrow in that scope to actually harm a patient.
Alex, anything else? Is there a motion on this bill? You did? I missed it, Dr. Pan, but I have you now. Senator Pan has made the motion. Assembly member, if you're not too exhausted, would you like to close?
Senators, this is really straightforward. Very straightforward. That a medical professional who is licensed in the state of California shall be reprimanded if they spread information with the intent to mislead. Very specific. And as I understand that some of the other senators on this committee are also former licensees themselves, that also comes with specific obligations. That is what's provided in which you obtain a license. And so that's what we are doing here today, to helping protect all of Californians and allowing a due process to occur and protecting everyone from what is the truth. And I respectfully ask for a vote.
Thank you, sir. The motion has been made by Senator Pan. The motion is do pass. Re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Please call the roll.
AB 2098, motion is due pass and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Roth?
Aye.
Roth, aye. Melendez? No. Melendez, no. Archuleta?
Aye.
Archuleta, aye. Bates? No. Bates, no. Becker? Dodd? Aye. Dodd, aye. Eggman? Aye. Eggman, aye. Hurtado? Jones? Jones, no. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Min? Aye. Min, aye. Newman? Aye. Newman, aye. Ochoa-Bogue? No. Ochoa-Bogue, no. Pan? Aye. Pan, aye.
The vote is 8-4. We'll hold the roll open for absent members. Mr. Lowe, AB 2236. We'll now move to optometrists.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and committee members. I hope to be more expeditious in this presentation. I'd like to thank the committee chair and committee staff for helping to assist on the legislation before you and taking the amendments as noted in the analysis. Over the past decade, optometrists and ophthalmologists have been in negotiations on addressing the issue of minor surgical procedures, including that of lasers. Meanwhile, 10 other states have passed laws to allow optometrists to perform many of these procedures with little to no oversight in their training. The bill before you is a product of many hours spent with major stakeholders involved, and provides the framework for other states to follow as well. What you have before you is a minimum set of standards